So let's go right now to the person who is now the vice president of Doyle Security Systems, for a Marine Corps vet, once a Marine, always a Marine like my dad, and a former NYPD officer. We say good morning to Greg Sanfilippo. How you doing today, sir?
Good morning, Simplify Ken.
Good to see you again, Semper Fi, sir. Let's talk about high visibility events. We see what just happened over the weekend. A couple of people, 18, 19, described, by the way, incredulously by CNN originally as just a couple of kids coming in on a train for a nice little weekend, and then they ended up getting arrested. And what a shock it was. These weren't just random kids. These are young men who trained for terror, right? And by their own description. So how much do we have to worry about something like this happening?
It's definitely a concern, right? We want to make sure that when we're out and about, that we are situationally aware. We don't want to operate out of fear. We want to be prepared. But exactly that. These were two. They traveled overseas. They were self-radicalized, and they made what's called TATP. So a very effective, explosive, very favored by terrorists. Fortunately, in this case, the old adage that it's not about the bomb, it's about the bomb makers. And they didn't make it exactly perfect. And in this case, it didn't detonate. So, by the grace of God, that there was not a lot of people injured and killed in that event.
And by the way, Greg, did you see the one? He was a ranking officer, the African American gentleman who hopped a gate, and he doesn't look like a kid. He hopped a gate and grabbed that device and probably saved a lot of lives. And he didn't even get a mention for it, by the way. I'm going to get his picture and his name because he deserves, he is a hero. And yet we didn't hear a mention about this man and how he saved people. But this is your NYPD.
Well,
NYPD
well,
just doesn't get the money or the credit for the life risks they perform every single day.
so glad you brought that up. We'll mention him today. It's Chief Aaron Edwards. Had the pleasure of working many years with him, and it's not the only time that he's been that heroic, but an incredible leader.
And it looks like he did it without flinching, and that's from the training, right? All the training you guys get over and over and over again. You see something, got to go grab it, protect people. Amazing. Again, he was no kid. I couldn't have hopped a gate like that, but he did, and he saved a lot of human lives. Thank God for him, and thank you for mentioning his name. He deserves it over and over again. Why do you think
It's that
global
old adage when
conflict?
you see law enforcement and you don't sit there standing around, you're not exactly doing anything at that point. The old adage is they're trained, they're being paid for what they're trained to do, not for
Mhm.
necessarily what they're doing the second you look at them. So great instance, 35,000 NYPD, plenty of law enforcement throughout New Jersey trained for just that. And
Right.
I'm sure he's very humble, and he'll let you know that he's not the only one that would have acted that way.
Amen. Amen. And in fact, a friend of mine was NYPD also. He used to work in Queens, distant cousin. And he was saying that the officers are like pilots on a plane. 99% of the time, you just sit there and chat. You're there for when there's a crisis and you're there for takeoff and landing. Other than that, you're just sitting there in case something happens. And that's kind of what the NYPD is doing, right? You're trained to spot things, you're trained to keep an eye on things, and you know how to handle and de escalate things should they happen. And New York City, of course, often mentioned as a potential target because of institutions. We have the United Nations. It's a global city. Everybody looks to New York as the epicenter, if you will, of the United States. So, what special things do we have to do when there's an international tension like Iran?
Sure, it certainly is, and it's not only New York City, right? We saw this pre, World Trade Center bombing on the first one, and even before 9/11. There's always that, it's called target transference, where if someone's looking to do something harmful in one instance and the security is too high, they may go somewhere else. So you saw that with targeting in Newark as opposed to New York City. So what we tell our corporate clients, and the same is for the general public, is you want to have information, protective intelligence. So you want that for the general public is situational awareness. Know before you go. Know if tensions are heightened, there's going to be protests, there's something going on. Do a little research. There's great resources both in New York and New Jersey. NYPD Shield. New Jersey Shield. These are resources for security professionals. And you also have New Jersey OHSP with a lot of great resources. That's the where you see something, say something. Things to be situationally aware of. Just great resources to know before you go.
And Greg, then of course you're with Doyle Security Systems. You're the vice president, and an organization like yours is made up in many cases of a lot of former law enforcement who have a second career. They do this. I know a lot of guys who do security who were NYPD. They did 20 plus years, and this is what they do in their semi-retirement, if you will. But these are all highly trained people, and I'm sure you guys are very busy. What's a website so people could reach out to Doyle Security should they need to heighten their security for their organizations right now?
Sure can. About 1,800 professionals, men and women. It's Doyle Security Services, Doyle, securityservices.com. And one takeaway I definitely would like everyone to leave with is, large organizations talk about emergency preparedness, and for the public, that's the what if game. When you're traveling and you're out and about, just constantly be thinking, what if something happens? Am I prepared? And make sure that your travel buddy is always just in case, right? So have things with you when you think, go through that what if game in your mind. What do I need? And then just travel prepared. No need to travel around fearful, but you want a general sense of awareness.
You got it. Greg Sanfilippo, Doyle Security Systems. Always, always, always a pleasure having you on, my friend. We appreciate your time today.
The pleasure's mine, Ken.